Now, we begin with the approval of the proclamation of state of emergency in Rivers State by both chambers of the National Assembly and the debate if the resolution met the constitutional provision of 2/3 majority in each of the houses. While the arguments rage, President Bola Tinubu has in the meantime commended the National Assembly for ratifying the state of emergency, which he slammed on Rivers State, describing it as a patriotic step towards restoring stability and safeguarding the nation's economy. Meanwhile, the senator representing the Federal Capital Territory, Senator Reti Kingibe, has opposed the use of voice vote by the Senate in approving the emergency proclamation in Rivers State. Her opposition comes alongside that of civil society organizations who have kicked against the methods used by the parliament, which saw at least 3 senators, that's Siriake Dixon from Bayelsa State, Aminu Tambuwal from Sokoto State, and Enyinnaya Abaribe from Abia State, walking out of the chamber. And former President Goodluck Jonathan has also joined the debate. Speaking in Abuja on Saturday, Jonathan accused the President Bola Tinubu-led federal executive, the judiciary, and the National Assembly of, quote, a clear abuse of power. Take a listen.
Presidents hardly make statements about what the current presidents are doing because of the tension it could create in the country. In most cases, look at America, look at everywhere. So hardly for former presidents to make, sometimes you see and you believe. And of course, what is happening in Nigeria today regarding the situation in Rivers State is like an Indian proverb that said that if somebody is sleeping, really sleeping, you can easily wake up that person. But if the person is pretending to sleep, you find it difficult to wake up that person. The key actors in Nigeria, from executive to the legislature, luckily Senator Binta and others are here, and the judiciary, they know the correct thing to do. But they are refusing to do it. They are pretending to sleep. And waking such a person is extremely difficult because the person knows the right thing. A clear abuse of offices, clear abuse of power, clear abuse of privileges, cutting across from the 3 arms of government, from the executive to the parliament to the judiciary. And I always plead with our people that whatever we do affects everybody. And sometimes we do things and we think that it doesn't affect us. I've been a president before, and even after leaving office as a former president, people get to me. Why is that our passport is not valued that much? Why is that Nigerians are not given the kind of treatment we're supposed to receive at the international airports? Sometimes we think it's because of Yahoo boys or 419ers. No, not only them. Yes, they are part of the problem. But whatever happens in a country, decisions that are taken by the executive arm of government, decisions that are taken by the parliament, judicial decisions affect everybody. For example, no businessman can bring his money to invest in a country where the judiciary is compromised, where a government functionary can dictate to judges what judgment they will give. No man brings his money to invest in that economy because we are taking a big risk.
All right, very strong words coming from Nigeria's former President Goodluck Jonathan there earlier today, Saturday at a meeting in Abuja. Well, joining us to discuss these developments is the former Commissioner for Information in Plateau State, Yakubu Datti. He's also the Chief of Staff to the former Director General of the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council, Senator Simon Lalong, who's also a former governor of Plateau State. Now, also joining us is the lead director of Speak Out Africa Initiative, a civil society organization, Kenneth Eze. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And I'll start from you, Datti. I mean, how do you react to those very strong words coming from former President Goodluck Jonathan?
Well, I think as a president, he has spoken his mind, but it's also very important that, just like he said earlier on, their words as former presidents are also very important and taken seriously and may affect peaceful coexistence. So it's not in my place to advise caution, but it's also important that we protect this democracy. The tripods of democracy, which is the executives, the legislature, the judiciary, must for no reason whatsoever be pushed under the bus, because those are what makes democracy work. And the democracy is not a perfect system, but then it's also a system that needs to be protected as it improves day after day. But the situation where you want to throw the baby with the bath water, it now calls for deeper introspection. And I believe that the president has a choice, or former president has a right to express his opinion. And we also, as citizens, have a right to also express our opinion. And we believe that the decision taken by this president was the right decision. It is a decision that has, under President Tinubu, has saved lives. It has saved the breakdown of law and order. It has also been supported by National Assembly. And even before then, there was a proclamation by the Supreme Court. These are three independent bodies on which we drive our democracy. And that is why we support and applaud this courageous decision by Mr. President. Because at the end of the day, the buck stops at his table. If there is any breakdown of law and order, if there is destruction of lives and property, he is the one that will be called to response. And we're happy that he exhausted several avenues for dialogue. He has sat with the people. They have even signed agreements which was not obeyed. He has also brought in other pressure groups like PANDEF to intervene, to no avail. He has also spoken to them privately, to no avail. And then an important arm of government, which is the judiciary, also spoke on the matter. And still, it was being eroded. And the moment we begin to challenge the key tripod of this democracy, which is the judiciary, then we are leading to a total breakdown of law and order.
All right, and of course, those of you in the civil society have also been speaking, indicting the parliament on the procedures taken. But just before we come to that, what do you say about former President Goodluck Jonathan's statement?
Okay, thank you. For me, I totally agree with former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Everything he said. Of course, we all know that President Goodluck Jonathan doesn't comes out to talk anyhow. He's such a person that is very, very, very careful about his choice of words. You don't see him speaking, and he started by saying so that, you know, they don't do that because of the tension is going to raise, but except in a case where the nation is now beginning to sink, then you have to stand to talk, because if you don't do that, then you will have no nation to even be quiet about. So I very totally disagree with my, my first speaker here, who said what President Tinubu did. He said there was even a approval from the National Assembly. I know we are going to get that. But of course, everybody has been speaking. Nigerians, civil society, including party men, those who put Nigeria first. We know there are people who put parties first. They will always, you know, want to ally. But outside the public space, you now see them taking a different position. But we are talking about those we have seen loyal party men who have said, Mr. President, who advised you to have done this. And let me say here that what is in contention is not declaration of state of emergency. What is in contention is dissolving the democratic structure that is in place. Right. Nobody has come out to oppose that declaring, even Mr. President, the former president of Nigeria, just spoke now, declared state of emergency. And that is why he's the best man to have spoken, because he did it. And that is why it's always said, do not toast stone if you are living in a glass house. He never knew that today something is going to happen. Imagine if he had told the same part that the current president is doing today. You ask yourself, will the current president in the future tomorrow come out speaking from the mix up? From experience, he declared it in place.
All right, but gentlemen, let's talk about the issue of the parliament itself, the National Assembly. I mean, the procedures taken, a lot of people are beginning to question it. Some, 3 senators walked out in the Senate, and some, like 2 other lawmakers, stood up and challenged some of the things that happened. But of course, their voices did not scale through. I mean, Is there a lack of legitimacy here? Is the National Assembly not enjoying legitimacy from this decision because of the procedure? Shouldn't it have been much more easier if each senator or House member was allowed to stand up and vote, or, you know, do electronic voting so as to create more believability, actually? Well,
to start with, I think if you look at the number, if you are taking 3 senators walked out, disagree with what another 106 of their colleagues agreed on, it's a clear democracy. Democracy is about a majority. And secondly, the fact that people have different opinions, but it doesn't stop the fact that it's the majority opinion that holds sway at the end of the day.
Of course, that's democracy.
Yes, and so it's very important that we emphasize, simply because the others did not work out, does not mean that the media should give undue leverage to the 3 minority that stepped out. They have a right to their opinion. Secondly, it's also important to realize that we live in a society of rules governed by the Constitution. Now, the National Assembly had 48 hours only to act.
Yeah.
And the day they sat was the second 48 hours that was running. And that was why they went into an executive session. Well, we don't know what happened there. Maybe they had further security briefing on the fact that if the state of emergency and the suspension of democratic structures are not done, Rivers State is allowed to continue in the trajectory where we began to see bombs going up. Then when the other side begin to push for impeachment, there probably will be more bombs going on, and there will be loss of lives of property.
Yeah. And
those are issues that can only come in as a security briefing that may be presented under executive session. And so they rose up as patriotic, courageous statesmen to stand for the unity and progress of this country. If the state of emergency was not proclaimed, and today, you know what will have happened, because just by the presentation of the impeachment notice, bombs started going up on the pipelines. So if the other ones had also mobilized to move a step further, or they also mobilize their own people, there will be breakdown of law and order. There will be loss of lives. So I believe the interest taken, though very hard, is for the interests of the country. It is also very important to point here that the governor was not removed. He's only suspended.
Yeah, but and that's what people are asking. Is there a constitutional provision for the suspension of an elected? Because isn't it the thinking of the drafters of the Constitution that once you're elected, you should never lose even an ounce of a minute or even seconds? I mean,
that is important for us to look at it. For instance, like my colleague Eze mentioned, when the former president who spoke declared a state of emergency and did not remove the democratic structures.
Yeah, like
you and I, it's a question in Plateau. You and I will know, did it work? Did it work? Secondly, the issues for which it was done did not work. We are here seeing how Boko Haram has grown from strength to strength. Secondly, what differentiates that with this is that the dramatic personnel, that is the governor, the House of Assembly, were actively involved in the unrest in Rivers State, such that there is no how they can operate pari passu with these people who are key people that have divided the states. Their supporters are both on one side. Right. They are singing on a daily basis. The militants are arming in the riverine areas, waiting to unleash mayhem. So it was a very key decision. And don't forget, the president also has a right in the Constitution 305 that he can take extra measures.
Well, those extra measures are what people are asking. I mean,
and then to add to, also it's important that the Constitution did not say that the president cannot remove. It did not say he can, or he did not say he can.
And it also didn't say he can remove them. Actually.
So whatever threatens the existence of an entity called Nigeria, especially in Rivers State, which is the base of our access, as a nation, and where also lives and property are being threatened, the president has a duty to operate. And then we get caught on, if you want to, you can't eat omelette without breaking the egg.
All right, Kenneth, let's talk about how a lot of you in the civil society are actually so angry about these procedural issues. I mean, could the proclamation approval have been done in a better way by the
Thank
National
you.
Assembly?
Yeah, I think I still maintain my earlier stand. And you can see everyone, nobody is opposed to declaration of state of emergency because that is actually enshrined in the section 305 he quoted. What people are saying, and even what the former president said here, is an abuse of power, meaning you have arrogated power to yourself. You have gone beyond what was not provided to you. Now, my greatest worry and Nigerians is on the National Assembly, who would have salvaged the situation. The story will have become a different thing today. Now, because we are more careful, we are more concerned about laying a bad precedent in the future. 20 years to come, another person will become president. So that is where the issue is. It's not about today because you are benefiting from it or whatever. Or you have, everybody must have a good point to justify whatever position you want to push for. It's not a problem. So, but we are talking about laying a bad precedent, a precedent that other people tomorrow will begin to follow that. Now, the greatest disappointment that Nigeria is facing now is our current National Assembly. Because it is very clear, and let me say, it is not only 3 senators. It's just that 3 senators walked out. It's not only 3 senators that disagreed. In fact, the fact that the leadership of the Senate and that of the House of Representatives refused, you could watch when even senators were calling attention that this house is governed by 2 rules. One is the Constitution of the Federal Republic. The second one is the rule of the National Assembly. And we are mandated. And you're supposed to do either a head count or for senator to sign. You can see in the House of Rep, it was the same issue, and it was like, we use the attendance. Say, can you bring out the attendance? Now, the media, I believe you were there. Can you look at the number of persons that were present in the House of Rep? The truth is that there is no way the president, the National Assembly will have gotten to 3rd majority. It was not possible.
All right,
and
so
that was why they resorted to the method.
What you're claiming that it's a decoy.
Yeah, because it was by voice. So how do you measure voices that you heard? How do you know how many people that shouted? How do you know whether some people even shouted yes and no at the same time? The way to have done it would have been through head count or voting. They have electronic that we spend billions of naira for. So there would have been, you voted. Nigeria, we know those who voted and those who voted against.
All right, I want you to also react to one thing that he said earlier on the statement by former President Goodluck Jonathan. He said that it looks like President Tinubu had to go this way because in his own thinking during Jonathan's time that, you know, the idea of still keeping governors when you declare state of emergency, sometimes it doesn't seem to work very well. I mean, do you agree or disagree?
I disagree with that. You know, that was very, the issue now is not about only governor. It's about democratic structure, including the airing, the faction, the legislature,
House of Assembly
the 27 lawmakers and other people, the other 3. We are not talking about the governors alone. It's not even about whoever is the president. For us in the civil society, we are more concerned about the process. Now, even if you have a genuine intention, that will not make you to go and use a process that is already faulty. Now, what it means is that tomorrow, I can just create anything, and if I become the president, next 20 years, we're never going to know who's going to be the next president. Right. And you have to also cite an example that you are doing that because you don't want to leave. Now, if that's the drafters of the Constitution did not make mistake, if there is any way to find a way, if you feel that is not, there are processes you will have done that.
Okay.
I do not agree that you have to go unconstitutional because of your thought you feel that is going to provide a more lasting solution. If we start that, it means we are now in a lawless society.
All right, and I want to come to you, Datti. Let's talk about if the president had a better information, intelligence information as to the state of things in Rivers State, and if he could have also, during his interaction, shared a little of those information with some of the leaders before embarking on this decision. Because, I mean, like the PANDEF leaders, they met with him previously, just a few days earlier. But now, in their own statement, they are saying that President Tinubu has betrayed the Niger Delta. Could it be that when he had those closed sessions with some of these leaders, he didn't let them see things properly, and then so it's now looking like he took a unilateral decision?
Well, if you cast your mind back, you recall that even before the decision was made, he had a meeting with the National Security Advisor and heads of security agencies.
Yes.
And of course, that same day, which you must have received briefings. And don't forget that immediately there was a pronouncement of the Supreme Court. We saw what happened in the creeks. Our national assets were being attacked. And then a situation, we are happy because by the benefit of hindsight, you can imagine if there was no state of emergency and suspension of the governor in place, only God knows if we still have a Nigeria today. But by that pronouncement, the Air Vice Marshal has resumed. Normalcy has been restored. I've received report from
Vice Admiral
Ibas has resumed. He has held meetings with people across board. Yesterday I watched it in the news, the traditional rulers. Yes. He has been able to go around. And most importantly is that Port Harcourt is in peace. There are no bombs going off on our national assets.
Before the decision was taken, Port Harcourt was actually in peace.
But
it's just that some of those bombs actually went off in the hinterlands. That's what people are saying, that within the city center and even suburbs of the River State capital, that there was no breakdown of law and order. It was only on the pipelines, which are, very far away.
Well, far away, but affecting our income as a country. Don't forget that when President Bola Tinubu assumed office, we are only producing 900 barrels of oil.
100,000 barrels
per day. But now he has risen up to 1.6 million barrels of oil per day. So by the time we are looking at increasing that, and you are allowing our pipelines, our national assets to be bombed as a result of political disagreements.
Well, some even accuse him of watching it to fester, because one of the ministers, his own appointed minister, Nyesom Wike, has also increased the tempo of this conflict, and that's why where we are right now, because he refused, according to political analysts, to actually rein in this minister. Could he have done better with his cabinet minister?
The meetings he had where these resolutions were signed, the cabinet minister was there.
Yeah, and he signed too.
Let me tell you that most of these things are politically, if you see the utterances, apart from my friend here who is civil society, most of the utterances and people that are fueling it are the opposition parties. For instance, the PDP are so angry that he left them and is becoming an asset to the APC.
That's Nyesom Wike.
Yes, Nyesom Wike.
Well,
secondly,
he hasn't formally defected.
The fact that he has not defected, and also look at what he's doing. He has concentrated on transforming the FCT. Even his worst critics accept that FCT has changed. There has been fiscal development. There's been more than 42.
But on this Rivers matter,
on this thing,
a lot of people keep indicting Nyesom Wike as being part of the problem, and that President Tinubu refused to rein in.
Most of the people that are calling for his head is because they want to hit at President Tinubu's star performing minister.
Right.
He's performing creditably, and it's all about 2027. So the only way to shoot down Tinubu is let's look for his ministers. Let's look for the high performers and shoot them down. Whatever that is happening in Rivers, in the first place, both Fubara and the 26 members of the are all the creations of Nyesom Wike. He was the one that brought them. In fact, the people that are even supporting Fubara today are the people that kicked against Fubara when he was brought in by Nyesom Wike, because he was just like out of the green, out of the blues. So it's we shouldn't be politics with security issues. And I believe that Nigerians should begin to support what the AVM Ibas is doing in Rivers with the restoration and peace and order, and also assist to mobilize the elders so that we can have a peaceful environment to ensure that the suspension can even be ended even before the 6 months, like it was submitted by the National Assembly.
Well, you keep calling him AVM, it's actually Vice Admiral.
Vice Admiral.
So All right, Kenneth, let's talk about the wider implication of all of these issues that we've seen now. We've had Governor Fubara is now in Bayelsa State. And then, of course, a lot of people are saying that some calm has, returned to the state capital now, Rivers State. In all of this, where do you foresee the next 6 months that this admiral will be, taking charge of governance there as we try to run off?
Of course. Thank you. I think I won't go into, because I'm not a politician. So,
yeah, but I mean,
I know he was talking more of politics, but we, for example, in the civil society, we are more concerned about rule of law, obeying the rule of law, the image of the country, not laying a bad precedent. For example, the overall implication of all this is that Nigeria is being portrayed. I wish you could go through any platform over the world for the couple of 2 days ago to see how Nigeria is being projected. The same country wants investors to come in to have foreign direct investment when you have seen and when you are perceived to have seen what is happening. For us, we are still beckoning and calling. Nobody, it is not in contention that the president has the right by the constitution to declare state of emergency. The contention remains that you cannot go overboard because you have a good intention or to do. That is just the contention. And so that is why good Nigerian, everyone is still prevail and said the president still have that. That is why Nigerians are very
So are you asking for the governor and the state house officer to be brought back alongside Vice Admiral Ibas? Is that what you're asking for?
No, not just me. What Nigerians are asking for is that let's not lay such a precedent, because another person will do even more. We go further tomorrow in the future, so that it can be corrected. And we are saying that the judiciary still can salvage the situation. We know nobody is saying Mr. President do not mean well. He's the number one citizen. He has a very genuine. It's just about the way things is being. So,
all right. And just as we try to round off very quickly, I mean, do you think that the president can withstand the political heat from this decision? Because I mean, if a former president who's your colleague has come out to say that, look, I mean, it's a blanket indictment of the three arms of government, not just President Tinubu, that, look, the procedures being taken look like, gentlemen, you guys need to know how to run the federal government. This is not how the federal government should be run.
Well, thank you very much. But with due respect, I want to say that even the former president that spoke, when he came into power, there was no law. It was a doctrine of necessity that was introduced to bring him to power. So it was not in line with the Constitution.
So do you foresee this as another
No, what I'm saying is he's a beneficiary of the doctrine of necessity. So if there is a necessity for the peaceful coexistence of Nigeria, then we must salute President Ahmed Bola Tinubu for courageously taking the right decision to ensure that peace and normalcy that has returned to the Rivers State, and also commend, not condemn, members, honorable members of the National Assembly who showed loyalty, statesmanship, by rising to the occasion against blackmail to stand for the unity and peaceful coexistence of Nigeria.
But within the wider context of the polity, I'm asking, because a lot of people are saying, including a new opposition coalition, all kicking against President Tinubu's decision. That's what I'm asking. Are there wider implications for him ahead of 2027?
It's all about 2027. That's why the discussion is gradually moving from the state of emergencies to remove Wike. Why Wike? Because he's a performing minister? Because he's the star minister of this administration? No.
All right. Well, we must thank you so much. Datti, Yakubu Datti is a former commissioner for information in Plateau State. And we must thank you so much for your immense wealth of knowledge. We have also had Kenneth Ize here, who has been speaking to us about how the civil society feels about this decision. Well, sometimes it could be very tough when you're in government. But we must thank you so much for helping us to understand some of these issues. Thank you so much, gentlemen.